welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast. A podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys.
What day is it? It's Monday. How's your weekend?
It's good. It's the Thanksgiving weekend for Canada, for all you Canadians out there.
Yeah.
And everybody else, if you're not aware, we don't have the same Thanksgiving as the U.S.
No.
So, yeah.
I guess I don't even know why that is. I guess different origins of the holiday or something, but yeah.
I guess so. I don't really know the history on that one. And I don't know.
I don't know. I figure it's not important.
Yeah, it's probably because it just gets colder up here than it is in the U.S.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it must be turkey weather.
It's supposed to be turkey weather now, versus November when it gets worse.
Too cold for turkeys.
Yeah.
So this here is a podcast where we just talk about RPGs and games, and usually about running them, and hopefully we pass along some useful information that you guys can, like our listeners, can apply to their games. Up top, yeah. I want to say, if you have any questions or suggestions or anything that you want to hear us talk about, just drop a comment or hit us up on Twitter or Facebook at Win with Dice. But right now I was just thinking about, one thing I'm thinking about is I just found out that Onion McNuggets were a thing, which
what?
Does not sound appealing.
What? Onion McNuggets?
Yeah, like clumps of onion that are deep breaded and fried.
Oh.
That are fried and breaded and deep fried,
I guess. If you like onion rings, I guess that's like a onion ring kind of deal. But why? Why do you know that?
Oh, I had Facebook open and stumbled across that. So that's one thing that's going to be on my mind for the next little while. Is thick onion rings. But also, I was working on a one shot this morning. Yeah, I just had a old friend recently reach out. We were talking about RPGs and stuff, and I was saying I wanted to run something for her and her boyfriend. So I was thinking about like what that game could be and stuff. And I was just also thinking it could be a possible topic of discussion on this podcast we do.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. What did you want to?
Yeah. I guess I can get the ball rolling on this one because I just recently did this.
Yeah. I don't know about. I'm never very successful with doing one shots. I feel like one shots always turn into something.
Yeah. I like me either. Every time I start a one shot, it always leads into a whole thing. Like it's never just the one game. I don't know. It's really hard to just stop once you start going. It's really hard to just turn it off and then just end the story. I don't think I've ever ended a campaign, quite honestly.
I still have not ended a campaign. Actually, the campaign, like the pirate campaign that I'm running for you and my wife and our friends, that was supposed to actually just be a one shot. It's supposed to be maybe like three sessions. They're supposed to just get the medallion and then, just hand it over, and then that was it. That was the whole thing, and then all of a sudden it was snowballed into something ridiculous, and now we're still playing like months later.
Yeah, that seems to always be the case. It's just stuff keeps happening in the game, so you want to keep going. So I kind of am building this as a campaign starter as well,
right? But
also as like a singular mission, as it were.
Right.
So, like, what I was thinking was, originally I was going to ask them if they wanted to join the other group that I'm running that you've sat in on a few times, just because that's a group with new players. But they felt more comfortable doing something different, so I was like, okay, just give me, let me sleep on it, and I'll probably come up with something in the morning. And lucky for me, I did. I was thinking I might end up merging the two at some point in the future. And I did have sort of a plot thread dangling from the other campaign that I'm running.
Right.
Where, most of that campaign is focused on getting this one person from one part of the world to the other and discovering the mysteries within her. You can listen to our previous episodes on that. But as they were traveling, the PCs had come across a town that was being attacked by demons that were coming out of this rift. So basically what I'm doing for this one shot is I'm just following up on that thread.
Oh, okay.
Because like it can be related to the one we're doing right now, but it's not directly related because like the direct point of that campaign is sort of the escort mission.
Right.
So I'm just following up with the riffs on something else, even though they are related. But like it allowed me basically to tie them back in together at some point if everyone would feel comfortable with that, or I can leave them separate. But yeah, so like what I'm thinking is pretty much very similar to what we had done before, where the PCs were tasked with closing a rift. But I want to start with them investigating it and then having to deal with stealing it or whatever may happen in that case. And I wanted to just like change up the setting and situation a bit. I'm wondering how much I should say because now that they're listening to the podcast, I don't want to spoil too much.
Just put spoiler warning on. But yeah, we don't have to go into more detail with it. But I was wondering, you ever thought about just rerunning like a session that you've already done to do it for another group of players, like just kind of like redoing it, like just you have to reskin it. You could just like hey,
do
like
the
all
same.
the things that
I have done that before with a pre-written module, and that was just because like I had done the Fallen Fortress module. That was the start of the campaign for one of my groups. And then there was just one time where it was with Deanna and Camille. They were over like one day, and we just wanted to play. So I was like, I don't know, I don't have anything, but I do have this.
Yeah.
So like it literally wasn't meant to be any sort of ongoing thing. It was just we are bored. We don't know what to do. We feel like playing an RPG, and I had nothing. I had literally nothing. So I was like, can I come up with something in 5 seconds, or can I just read this thing that I already have? Basically I just pretty much did that. It went very differently. I think what happened was Deanna's character got killed or captured by a spider. Camille just bailed, and then the troglodytes that were trying to do whatever crazy ritual they were doing, they succeeded. So I just narrated like the end of the nearby town.
They just burned. The nearby town just burned.
Basically, and Camille's just out of there. And I was like, you know what? I can respect that decision.
Yeah,
so it was a very quick session.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, you could just. I feel like there's something there. You can just. I feel like I would take that and be like, okay, for the next group that runs, I would just start from the town being destroyed, and then you're just like wander to this town, and you're supposed to meet somebody here, and then it's all messed up, and you're wondering what the hell happened.
I mean, maybe I could do that.
That would be hilarious. And they backtrack and they find like Deanna's body, and it's just like, oh no, this poor person, because you always find like, oh, you found a skeleton in the spider webs or whatever, right? If you get like after defeating the spider, and it's like, oh, you get like a sword and some gold,
you get your loot,
stuff like that. But that's Deanna's loot, because that's Deanna's body, Deanna's character's body. So you could be like, whatever she had, that's actually what's there. I mean, you don't have to do it now, but I feel like that's like it would be a cool place to revisit in your Calvin's D&D multiverse continuum.
That's actually something I thought about. Like that's kind of very tempting to do in some ways, because I am putting this new group in the same like world map as the other ones. Like all the Pathfinder groups I'm running are within the same world map. They're just in very different regions and at very different like times on the calendar, but they're all within the same current year. Just because I already made a timeline for it, so I was like, this is the current year, so this is gonna be everyone's current year, but you'll be in different months. And I just ripped off the months from Pathfinder. Because I also used Pathfinder's like deities, so since the months are named after the deities, I was like, whatever, I can keep the month names the same as well.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, like I have thought about, like, that's part of why I'm making the one shot the way I did, because it's like now I can sort of merge the two if I want to, or I can just say like they're passing through this area, but another group might have been here before, they had some sort of effect on it.
Yeah, and also it's I mean, even if you never the parties never meet, I mean, tons of times like real people in the real world have affected each other and not even known
Exactly.
what's going on. So, but I mean, it'd be kind of cool to kind of, I mean, you would be the only person really knowing, but you can, add in bits and pieces that other parties have affected in the world, right? So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I did a little bit of that with the Path of Inion game, where certain bad guys were more resistant because of other parties' actions, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because when we started that, it was like, because it was like a bunch of people. You had started with, I think it was like 2 separate groups of people.
Yeah, it did. It was. I think it was. We had 6 people or 7 people at the time. So I was like, okay, we're gonna break into 2 groups, and then one group's gonna do a couple missions one week, and the other group is gonna do a couple things the other week. And eventually, we started pretty much just going like, whoever's available, they'll just show up, and we'll play with those characters. And then the 2 groups kind of finally got together for like the final thing. But it was the kobolds, because your session was the first one, I believe, and you guys attacked the kobolds, right? So then now the next session, when as soon as the kobolds see another human, because I think the last party was predominantly human, like your party, so then they're like, oh no, it's those humans again, because the kobolds don't really know like which humans are different humans, right? So they immediately attacked instead of, talking to them, which is what they wanted. But yeah, it was just kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I recall like when we were like melding together, my character was asking like what happened in these previous, sessions, but what happened in these previous adventures, because we were dealing with things that were like somewhat related to that.
Right.
So I'm just thinking like maybe this new group will come across that small town, and I don't know, maybe they'll see some sort of memorial to Keeley or something.
Yeah, that would be nice. Just show him the picture. You see a stone statue of this guy. His name was Keeley.
I mean, yeah, sure. I don't know if Keeley warrants a whole stone statue, maybe a plaque or something.
Wow. Sure, that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
Yeah, it is like a really interesting idea just to try to like meld those things. I kind of think of it like the MCU of adventures.
Yeah, I mean, if I ever complete the Path of Inion campaign, and I think it's going to be probably so the Path of Inion campaign, I think is going to be one of my like I guess as a DM, my legacy campaign. Yeah, I like the idea of like everyone has like a campaign that they can just pull out and run for new people, and every time it's different, but it's like in that kind of continuation. And like I want to have it so the first people that go through it, all the stuff that's left there will just be, built back into the story. So it's like Inion is like full of ruins, right? But the ruins are kind of nebulous, like you don't really know where they are. They're just like ruins. But now if this campaign ever finishes, which hopefully it will,
maybe,
because campaigns just die out all the time, because life is life, and life doesn't wait around for RPGs to get finished. So
this is true.
Yeah, so I want after it's all done and I run it for another group of people, they're gonna be like, okay, there's Skyfist Tower, but it's in ruins because you're not there anymore, right? You moved on, or the world.
It'll be that long after the new tower will be in ruins.
Well, kind of, right? But it's the ruins, so it's like it's not like the time frame will continue. It's like maybe the world will reset, but it won't get back to exactly the same. So it's like, Joel's Rogues Tavern, like the Rogues Racket, will be there, but it's a ruin because but then somebody else might move in and change it, and whatever you guys do to the tower, that's how I'm going to describe it. And then if I happen to run that Path of Inion game a third time, then whatever kind of crazy crap that they put in there will just be there, and then I'll have like all these different places or sites or history to all this stuff that that players have inputted into my world, and it makes it like really, to me, really collaborative. So then like let's say if you are talking to somebody who has played in the second version of the Path of Inion campaign, or my second run through of the Path of Inion campaign, and they're like, oh yeah, we went this tower, it was weird, it was shaped like a fist, and then you're like, oh yeah, Skyfist Tower, yeah, that was my whatever Macy's tower, and you're like, oh really?
Did you check out the library?
Exactly, right? And then it's like you can talk to this person about why it was like that, and then it's like you would have kind of like almost the same conversation you would have with somebody who, you know, you're like, it's like you guys have experienced the same thing. The same thing if like someone like ran Ravenloft or something like that, right? It's like if you talk to somebody who's also played through Ravenloft or Rise of the Rune Lords or whatever, you have like all these things you guys can talk about because, oh, what does your party do? How did your party solve this? So like, oh, what is epic stuff? And it's like, you know, I don't know. That's my idea. It might never happen. I might never run Path of Vineyard again. We might never end this campaign, or it'll end without it actually ending, like cut it short. But yeah, that's I don't know what topic we're on.
I do think that's an interesting idea, though. Like, is that like using the PCs to make world history instead of, like world history instead of world current events, which was sort of what I was thinking. Just that they're around at sort of at the same time. But you're using, like you're saying, like stuff that we build and establish in this current game can show up again in a future game, just maybe a little more run down, but it establishes as part of the history of this world.
Right. So,
like, would you also include like former PCs as NPCs as well? Because I think you've done that with some characters. I think you mentioned some of the NPCs in that game were from previous games. I don't know if they were PCs as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who would it be, but they're definitely influenced, and I would definitely. I mean, Macy's definitely one of those characters where I would, if I had a chance to use her later, I would, because just like an interesting dynamic of just wanting to be a hero but also not being very good at it.
That's the best way to describe her. I mean, it's not always her fault, but
yeah, and like she's also one of those characters who's like honest and will like try to do her best. You know what I mean? Like, so I like it. You know, it's so. Yeah, I would use those NPCs again. I mean, I would use Helen again if whatever that ends.
Oh yeah,
I
like
can
for sure.
use Helen again. Helen's definitely going to be if my PCs ever need a pirate-like person, they're going to be there, and Jasper's going to be there, and Crow, and like all those people that you came up with, and I'm just going to be like,
the whole crew.
Yep, these are all mine now. I'm going to use them.
I mean, like I've definitely done the same thing, like turning player characters into NPCs. Like I have specifically done that with Helen. In this campaign, and I have done that with other people who I made as PCs but didn't use in campaigns.
And that's the thing too, because like I think that, you know, I strongly think that we're gonna finish the pirate campaign, and because it's with my wife and us, and you're in it, and our good friends are in it, that we're probably gonna end the campaign, and we're gonna start a new one, right? Ooh. We're just gonna keep playing. And you know, but I don't want those characters. Like, you guys are gonna start new characters and do all that, but like those characters still exist, and they're start doing, like, probably by the end of the campaign they're like really important people. You know, they're gonna go off and do their own thing, but they're also still gonna be there as NPCs for you guys to maybe rely on in the future. Like, who knows, maybe Helen's gonna be some really important pirate person, maybe
pirate queen.
Right, and I think my wife really wants to befriend a dragon, have a dragon friend. So I was like, yeah, sure. Maybe she's just friends with this really powerful dragon.
Yeah.
You know, and those NPCs will go off in the world, and then they're like, wait, I know of a person because I was that person, right? Let's go see what they're doing and see if they can help us with this new and difficult thing that's happening, right?
Yeah.
So I like that, and I think it's a brilliant idea. But I mean, also, like, whoever knows how long D&D campaigns ever last, and if they ever end, and if, you know, we can ever have time to play games.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you have to know where to end it, or at least have the idea of what the ending is going to be. Like, I'm just trying to think of campaigns that I've seen have a specific end. Like there was one I can think of, but they were working off like a module or a adventure path. Right. I don't know. Critical Role Campaign 1 technically did have an ending, but really they could have just kept going. I mean, probably not. They were like really like, it was like very much an ending, but like the character still existed. They could keep going. I feel like you need to write the ending in. Like, this is going to be whatever happens here as you're going to battle whatever powerful undead god or whatever our campaign ends up being. It has to be
Right.
like whatever happens here is going to affect the rest of the world, but it's going to be the end of the adventure for these characters, and they all
Right,
went
right.
into it
And-
knowing that.
Exactly, and I think it's it's like tying up loose ends too, right? So
Yeah,
like probably before the campaign ends, like Helen has to figure out what happened to her mom and possibly defeat her arch nemesis, right? Like that's like a thing that has nothing to do with the rest of the party, but that's like personal things, right? And it's like all the little side stories. I think like once you start like tying those off, you're getting down to like the end where it's like, well, now it's you versus now there's like, I always think of it as like the Mass Effects, like Mass Effect 2
I know
has a
where you're
really
going
good
with
one.
that,
Yeah, where you guys are going on the final mission. It might be a suicide mission. You don't actually know if you're gonna come back. So you tie up all those loose ends with Garrus and you move on.
Yeah, you do everyone's loyalty quest.
Yeah, right. So essentially, it's everyone's loyalty quests. But as soon as you start tying up those and characters start doing stuff, and like, my wife and Jasper needs to get married. Well, not my wife. My wife's character, Jasper, needs to get married. That probably has to happen. Lance has to show up a couple more times. Like, I don't know about this will they, won't they with Ray and Misty. Like, we don't know. We have to figure that
I
out.
don't know. Yeah, I have no idea where that is going.
Exactly, right? So, we'll see. And I think that if I can tie up those, if as soon as we're getting closer to the end and we can tie up those loose ends and everyone kind of feels like the character arc has been like, has not it doesn't have to complete, but has like gone its way enough that we can just start focusing in back onto the conclusion, then boom, I did it. That's exactly what I want. We'll end it, then we'll do like probably a little half game session with like a post of like what were the like an epilogue.
Yeah, the epilogue. That's
Right, this is always kind of important to do, I think, and then that's it. We're done, and then, I don't know, probably just start another one. Like
that is the dream. But I mean, yeah, it is kind of the thing you have to. I think you have to, like, everyone has to go in knowing that'll be the end in a way. Mm-hmm. Just so you, like, again, you tie up all those loose ends. But we did start talking about doing a first session, and now we're talking about doing final sessions.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But like, what goes into you doing first sessions now? Because for me, I was just I feel like the way I do them now is a lot different than what I've done before. Because before, like I was saying, I would like really just look at these other very short modules that had been pre-made, and I would say, how can I fit this into my setting that I already have, and how can I adapt it around the characters? But now at this point, I go into it with a much looser idea of just, I know the vague idea of what I want these characters to face. So how do I get them there? And what encounters can they have along the way? And actually, I was just going through the Battle Maps Reddit page, and I saw some stuff that gave me some cool ideas of how I can sort of change things up, especially since I've done a similar adventure to this already. So I'm like, I want to put this one in more of an urban environment, rather than being out in the wilderness. And then I want to play with, like, if there's a rift in the plains that creatures are coming through, I want to play with that more, and like, what else could be coming through there? What other planes is it connected to? Does it open both ways? Things like that. So,
ooh, that'd be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I found a really, really, really cool map, and I want to show it to you, but I'm probably gonna have you doing a fight in it, so I don't want to show it to you.
No, hey man, that's cool. No worries. First sessions, I think. I'm trying to go back to what my first sessions of like games are. I think that's the problem is it's always just like I always want to go from we're sitting down at the table into the action, and I always want to try and get past the meeting of the characters. I'm always like I want to get into the fact that we're all friends around the table anyway. Our characters just need to be friends already. So I always try and think of
Is that a Coville thing? I feel like
maybe.
I've heard someone say that. It was one of the two Matts.
Yeah, one of the two Matts must have said it. It might be Coville, but it's just like, it's always just like we know that our characters are gonna become friends because we're friends, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it's always just like the introducing of characters to each other. It's always just kind of like the slog a little bit.
That's
right?
fair.
Yeah, because I also maybe if it's a new group of people and or the first time they're all doing this role playing thing, it's like no one really has the idea of like what to do, right? It's like, do I talk in the voice? How does my character act? And it's like, well, if you're also playing like a kind of gruff, kind of standoffish character, then it's like that's even harder to get them into the group, because it's like, oh, my character doesn't trust that character because I don't trust anybody.
Yeah,
And
like
you're
how much of that do you
cool.
bring in? Yeah.
Right, but you guys all have to go to the adventure because we're playing. We gotta do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think also the size of the group has an effect on that, because like I recently
Totally.
did that with like a 2-person group, and it wasn't too bad because we started like right into it. I mean, they did start in the tavern as is tradition, but we did basically roll right into the story, so they were able to introduce themselves along the way. But yeah, I think with like a larger group, I think anything over 3 maybe, that might become a bit of a slog.
Well, that's the thing too, and like I'm trying to think of. So our game was kind of. So for the pirate game, I started off with Misty. Like the first person I talked to was like in terms of like once the game started, it was the first scene was Misty meets the Black Toads and gets the job, right, to go steal the medallion.
Yeah.
Then I was like, Misty, you know of a guy who is good at like living in the forest and like tracking and stuff like that, and you could probably use his help, which was Ray, right? So then Misty goes and finds Ray, and then Misty tells Ray what the situation is, right? I just let them talk it out for a little bit. Then after that, Ray was like, wait, I know of this crazy elf girl who lives in the forest as well, and she definitely wants to get back at that noble guy. Let's go get her, right?
Okay.
And then the 2 of them go find, Rain, and it was like, hey man, let's go all steal this medallion together. And then that was maybe like 30 minutes.
Yep.
But it was kind of like that kind of also set the precedent of the whole campaign, where it was like, hey, I know a guy. we can go talk to that person, and like like I think that was a cool start, because it also wasn't like just in a tavern everybody was kind of standing around and there was a mission. It was just like I gave one person I literally gave Misty like, no, you're team leader now. Like you have to go get these these guys in order and to go get the job done, because you're the one who's actually like organizing this stuff, right?
Oh, that's why Misty is so focused on being the leader.
Well,
Yeah,
also
I don't know.
also the calmest one out of those 2 people. All 3 of them, out of that group, she's like you and Misty are the calmest characters. The rest of them are kind of a little bloodthirsty. So.
I don't know if we mentioned this specifically, but the term land boss and sea boss has come up several times, because like in our group, like Helen's the ship captain. But Misty was also the leader of this group before. Like Helen was just their
the
transport.
gang leader.
Yeah,
she's the gang leader. Yeah, it's funny.
So there's this rivalry between them of who's really the leader of the party.
Yeah, man, land boss and sea boss. But it's really funny because every time we say it, Misty's players just like, no. There is no land boss or sea boss. I'm the boss.
It's like, yeah, you're right. There is no land boss or sea boss. I'm the boss.
Right? You guys both say it. It's just like really funny. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, just it'd be kind of cool. I think that's a good idea. Just make one of. I truly believe in team leaders. Every party has a team leader, and someone's gonna fill that role eventually. What's Tim's character's name?
Oh, Delorfic?
Delorfic. Like, Delorfic is obviously the team leader, because Delorfic is always the first person to talk to everyone about something, right? And that's typically what the team leader does. He kind of organizes the team. You know what I mean?
In a way, maybe.
In a way, yeah. Just, I mean, arguably, I don't know if Delorfic is the best like negotiator in the group, right? Because that's kind of like half the team leaders.
He's not the most charismatic.
Exactly, but I mean, it brings focus to a bunch of like a rabble. Like you know, Captain America is not the strongest Avenger, but he's definitely the most organized Avenger.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it organized, but I do see your point there.
He never lets you forget about the money. He's like, no, we have to. We're gonna get paid. We gotta go.
That's a fair point. But I do like the idea of just like all the PCs just know each other from the start, and I think I might probably implement that in the future, maybe for this campaign, just to probably skip that introductory bit. But I think it can work with a group of like 2 or 3 people.
And like so you're running that game with your friend and her boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you just have them be boyfriend and girlfriend?
I mean, I think that sort of like interpersonal thing might be more up to them, but maybe if that comes up, I'll let it go, and I'll see where that goes if it comes up.
Yeah, you should just suggest it. It might just be an easier dynamic, because then it's like they're already boyfriend and girlfriend. It'll be way easier to just be boyfriend and girlfriend in the thing, or just be like, you know what I mean? Like it's really funny because like Misty and Ray, like in real life, they're each other's significant other, like their players are together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just really funny how they kind of do this will they won't they kind of deal, where it's like one character is obviously in love with the other one, but the other one's kind of so because it's a little crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know like what both of their characters are going to be. I know one of them's going to be like a paladin. So I'm thinking, maybe they work together for the same order, or they're just like both partnered mercenaries or something like that.
Yeah.
So like once I know their characters, I'll see. But yeah, like it might be a good idea just to have them like already know, I know this person, I've met them before.
Right. And maybe it's like, I think also too is like the call to action needs to be there as well. So it's hard to be like, well, the paladin in the party wants to do this for the greater good and saving people, but the rogue in the party is like, well, then what's in it for me? I want the cash, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I really kind of it'd be cool, kind of like dynamic, but I don't know, like the amount of times a paladin and a rogue argue about whether or not we should get paid for a job has been done like infinite amount of times, probably. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I did something I did differently. I don't think I've done this before, but I have done this sort of before, but I just told them like, this is what the the start that I'm gonna, like the game that I'm gonna run, or the one shot or whatever it is, like this is what it's going to be about. It's going to be about these rifts that are opening up. And I mean, no, I actually have done that before. I just tried to give them a better idea of where I want to start with this. Mm-hmm. And I think that might influence like how they make their characters. Like they're probably going to make a character that is going to want to deal with this thing that is happening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At least so far. You can just do a hot start where it's like, instead of being in a tavern or they're showing up to the scene of the thing, it's just like they're literally in the middle of it.
Yeah. I thought about that too, but then like, how do you motivate? Like, how do you create the motivation, like in character motivation, to continue like seeking these things out?
Well, I mean, you guys could just get to town. Okay, so hypothetically, I don't actually know what, like, so just spitballing, like, right after, like, the basic that you just told me.
Yeah.
Like, they get into town hearing that there's trouble and with these rifts, right? They walk up into town, they're gonna go try and find somebody to tell them what's going on, but immediately they're, like, attacked, right? By the very things that like the problem is, and they fight off the problem. Maybe the problem escapes, or maybe they deal with the problem, but that's just not the last of it. Then they go talk to someone and be like, what the hell was that? Is that the problem? Oh my god, you guys have a real problem on your hands. And then they go, then after that little conversation, they go and continue the adventure and deal with it. And then I don't know how much time you actually have to run this session, or if you're gonna try and end the session with them dealing with the problem.
Maybe. I mean, like I have to consider like future sessions. Like I have to think like I'm calling it a one shot, but I have to think of like, how do I make their character, put them in a position where they would continue to deal with these particular things, or at the very least go on future adventures.
Right.
Because if it's fun and everybody enjoys it, then it's like, great, I can keep doing this. I'll just create new things. I want to do some stuff with, I don't know. I was just looking at the book and I was like, aberrations are cool. What will those come stumbling out of? So like I do want to do things with these rifts, and I do want to do stuff with the other campaign that I'm running, and again, maybe meld them together. But like as far as this one goes, I just like I want to think like I want them to be the kind of people who would continue to follow these like different planar rifts that are showing up. So I like putting them in the middle of it. What would I do afterwards that they would continue to like seek out another one?
Yeah, okay. I mean, if they're, it's true. I mean, also like for the good. I mean, if they're one of them's playing a paladin, like if they're fighting a bunch of demons or devils or something, it's like, well, we better stop these motherfuckers from coming to our plane because they're not supposed to be here.
I mean, yeah, like that character's motivation is pretty much already there.
Right.
Depending on what deity they take.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done a hot start, but like it's kind of been my dream to run a hot start, but I don't really want to start another campaign.
What? That is another thing, because I have like 5 or 6 ongoing now. Ongoing in terms of if everyone was interested, this was a thing we could keep doing. Or like, right. I don't know, how do I describe ongoing? Like something that I could pick up and continue. Something
that's not completed.
Yes.
It's a not finished campaign, for sure. And like I think, man, sometimes I'm like, what if we just ended it here? What if the final confrontation was right here, and I don't have to do another session of this? Not that I don't want to do another session of this, but then I can explore other ideas and other plot lines and other story beats. Like I don't have to keep making this one work. Right?
Nah, just I don't know. This like my problem is I like running games a little too much. So anytime someone new says that they want to try it, I'm like, oh, hello.
Yeah, no, I got a couple
slap
friends.
down Roll20 in front of them.
Yeah, I know. My friend Elliot, he was interested, and his friend was interested too. And I was like, yeah, I'll run for you guys. But it's like, also, I have no time to put thought to this, to make up something else for you. But maybe I might just start them off restart Inion again and see what they do with it. Yeah. Because the first bit of it is like, I can run that I could just give them the same options, see what they do. And I want to see what the outcome would be.
I mean, even that, or like, because in that game, like, there are a whole bunch of adventurers in the town and some lower level ones. Maybe they could be, well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you want to do it, like a full reboot, or our campaign is ancient history, or our campaign is current events, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Or maybe like you guys are on because you guys are technically on downtime now. Right now, because we're like the campaign, like our players aren't meeting, we're not playing them now. That game campaign's on pause. But technically they're on downtime. I think that you guys will have like a year or so, since 2020 is kind of a shit show anyway, and we're all having downtime in this year. Your characters would have some time to do some personal stuff, spruce up their strongholds, or go find something else. Like maybe I'll try and find some time during like Christmas or something and run some more one-on-one games. But
yeah, man.
Yeah, no,
just
the
do
plot.
It.
Yeah,
fall down the same rabbit hole.
I know, right? The plot will be at a standstill until we all are able to meet up again, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man.
I don't know. Did we cover like doing your first session? Like how what I mean, I'm trying to think of. Blah, I'm stuttering. I'm trying to think of some more, like, something concise to say about doing your first session. I think, like, the most, like, everything I can say about it just came from experience. Because before I'd be too nervous, I'd be like, I'm gonna, like, screw this up. I need to look at a module that already exists and just do what's right in there. But now I have I'm better at, like, I guess it's just a confidence thing, maybe. Because I can be like, I know what I want the story to be, whether it's I want it to be they're transporting this person from one part of the map to the other, they're dealing with these rifts that are showing up, or they just joined a superhero team, or even with our Starfinder game, I mean, that was sort of in the middle, because I didn't look up a specific Starfinder module, but I just kind of like looked up other like prison escape. What was that? Prison break. Just break.
Prison break. Oh, yeah, prison break.
Oh man, No, I have no idea why that word's on my mind. But like other Prison Break like games and stuff like that. I found it really old. I think it was like Star Wars or something. That's where I found a prison map. But that's a whole other thing. But that was more like I knew what I wanted the story to be, but I felt like I had to look up things that already did it before I could do it comfortably. But now I think if I were to do that again, I'd just be like, okay, I know what I want this to be, so let me figure out, well, what's guarding this prison? Probably some robots, but there's going to be some actual people. Actually, now there's more information about that space that I used, so I'd probably just like default to that information. But like I would go into it like less having to think about what's something that's done this already and what can I take from that. Even though I think that's good advice still, and it is something I do still, but now I lean more into taking like plot points and plot ideas rather than just trying to replicate the entire thing and then shifting some things a bit.
Right.
Which, well, I mean, I still do, but like I do it out of, I know this is cool, so I want to do it, not out of, I don't think what I have is cool, so I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah, I would say you've already, if you're a fresh DM and has never done this before and you're doing your first session, you've probably already planned out 3 sessions worth of content without even knowing it.
This is true.
You will never ever, your first session will never go as long as you actually think it's gonna go. Always. I've never had a first session where we were able to complete all the things that need to be completed, just because it's just the nature of people, right? Like everyone's first time with these characters, maybe it's everyone's first time with this game, first time running combat ever or something like that. Just tons of things where it's just going to take time to get into the groove of things. Like running your first session of a new campaign versus running like session 10 is like, they're like very different things.
Yeah.
You don't know the characters that well. You maybe not have explored the backstory that well. The group itself hasn't had time to become that A-level, A-team group of synergy, so just let it happen. Relax. Don't worry about trying to get to the end. We're all here having fun. It's you just do it. And if you feel like everyone's not having fun, there probably are. Like, don't worry about it so much. Yeah.
I mean, that is kind of a thing. Like, I don't know if it's just because of who we've played with and stuff or something like that, but yeah, I do find that like, the group will always like have fun in a way. Like, they'll always bring their own fun to it. I think you can trust. Yeah. I've said this before, but you can trust your players to have fun.
Yeah, you can. Don't worry about them. Maybe you think that they're not having fun in the way that you think is fun, but definitely they're having fun.
I have made that mistake.
Yeah.
I have made the mistake of thinking, like, they're playing differently than I would play. Does that mean they hate everything I'm doing? It's like, no, they just don't play the same way, but they're still having fun.
Exactly right. And then also if it's a new group of people, like, you have to figure out their personalities too, right? Or like what they like and like, what are they coming to this table for? Like, what are they trying to get out of it? And then once you figure that out, then you can give it to them. If you want,
like
or if you want to keep running a game that
what they pursue.
That you like, yeah,
Like, do they seem to be more excited when combat starts, or do they seem to be like worn out by it? Do they like talking to NPCs, or do they try to avoid it? Like, you do have to do a bit of an analysis on what your players are enjoying beyond like what you enjoy.
Yeah, and then kind of see if that matches up too, right? I mean, you're a DM, but you're also a player. Like, you're in control of everything, but you're also like a player in the game. So if let's say like you bounce off like this group of players, and you're like, well, the story's not going where I want it to go, or they're not like the game that you're set out to do isn't exactly what the players are doing. You know what I mean? Like, you can also just be like, yeah, man, I'm not really feeling it, and just let it. Don't ever feel like you have to push yourself to do something that you don't really want to do. As long as you're still having fun and everyone's still having fun, like, go for it. But if not, maybe it's just that you just don't want to run for these people and you got to go find some other people to run for.
Yeah, I mean, that might have to be it. Change the group or pivot the plot or like whatever you have to do. But like, you can make sure you're having fun while also making sure they're having fun. But you do have to trust that they are there to have fun. So don't beat yourself up about it if it doesn't seem immediately obvious.
Yeah, man.
You can also just ask them, which For me, it's a hard thing to do. I'm sure it's a hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, I always just do a post. Like, as soon as we're done, we're like, okay, we're done. I'm like, did you guys enjoy that? Like, immediately.
Yeah.
Like, what did you enjoy of it? Was it fun? Did everyone have a good time? And usually it says yes. And I usually get pretty good feedback, too. It's like, well, maybe I didn't really understand this character too well. Or, like, or I really like this portion. And then, just really talk to your players about it. Because, I think that... like, your friends are willing to give you good feedback, especially if you want to make your game better. So
yeah, when I sometimes, I don't know, I don't think I still do this, maybe subconsciously, but part of me was like, they're just being nice when they say they enjoy it. But even with that, it's like, well, focus on if they mention some specific things. Focus on those things and what you can do with those, because even if they're quote unquote just being nice, which is probably not the case, at least in my experience, it's probably not the case. They're actually just being genuine with you. They're gonna mention the things that they did enjoy, and like, what can you do with those ideas? How can you use them or center around them?
Yeah, right.
Like with the game that I'm running, the new one on Discord with the new players, I was definitely making notes of the things that they liked in our first couple of sessions. And I was like, okay, what stood out the most was that they liked the character that they were escorting, which was really great to me, because then it meant like, okay, now I should work on developing this character more, and what this character, like how they would react in different situations, and what this character is able to do, and what their backstory is and everything. Like, just putting more details into it, because I knew this is something the players care about, so let me make sure this is pristine.
Yeah, and also you could just put them more into stuff, right? So just have her be in situations they'll force them to interact with this character more, or want to deal with this character more, right? So
because like, if that wasn't the case, then I'd say like, what else can I bring in? What else can I do? I would work on like, what are some other interesting people they can meet if they weren't like too into this person, or I'd be like, how can I shift this person to be more interesting? But I don't know, they really liked her, which is good. I was really happy that with that. I was like, kind of, this feels a bit off topic now, but I was kind of taking some tips from, like, I was watching some game design conference videos on The Last of Us. And they were just talking about how they make Ellie work as a escort and companion character. And I was just taking some tips from that. So, I don't know, I'm glad that worked. I feel like a real good game designer now.
yeah, nice. That's good. I mean, I don't think I've done that.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's just because it was more of like a game development thing.
Yeah.
It just had to also have useful information that I thought, maybe I can apply this here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think you could apply a whole bunch of stuff to this hobby. You could pull in a lot of different areas into it. Especially trying to, like, making NPCs kind of likable and believable and interesting is it's very tough.
Yeah.
Thing to do. It's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like trying to make a person every time. It's just. And then you never know if the person is gonna, like, if you're gonna work a whole lot on something and then none of the details will ever come up, or if you're gonna, like, have someone who's barely a name and then they just become a classic. So, yeah, it is. I think we have talked about NPCs before, but, like, there is so much to say about NPCs in general that, I don't know, it's hard to just summarize it even in one episode.
Yeah, we'll probably never stop talking about NPCs.
Nah, man. Love making NPCs.
Yeah.
Like, even, because, like, in our last session, like, just those two cart drivers, at first they were just names, and then I was like, well, what's something to do with them? I don't know, maybe they're twins or something, and maybe, like, how would I describe them? What's some characteristic that stands out? Oh, they have very bright red hair. And then that just makes them more developed, it makes them more believable. And then, like, at that point where you're describing them, they kind of stand out more than just, like, background noise.
Yeah, I mean, they just sound like Weasleys. You mentioned it. I was like, I forget what the Weasley name, but the Weasleys had like a twins.
Yeah,
or something.
Fred and George.
Fred and George. Yeah, they just sound like Fred and George. That's how I imagine them being. It's just kind of Fred and George. They're kind of like they make snarky remarks at other people, to each other all the time.
Oh, for sure. That is anytime they are in conversation with each other, they are, because they are the caravan drivers. So anytime they're like talking to each other, they're mostly complaining about the people they have to drive around.
Yeah, it's just really funny. So, yeah, man, good. That's cool. Cool. Yeah. Is there anything else we gotta talk about?
We could talk about like designing settings as well, because we might have briefly skimmed by this topic last episode, but it was mostly on like character designing and stuff. So we could talk about like settings and trying to set a feel for them.
Oh man, let's just briefly talk about something that is extremely difficult.
Yes, very very briefly summarize it. Do it. It's
hard. Yeah. Do it, and it's hard. Done.
Yeah, like
but once it's
yeah. Oh, you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna make a joke, but like once you do it, like your players won't even notice it.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Yeah. Like for me, this is again one of the benefits of playing online, is finding ways to describe things without just using words. Mm-hmm. That's why like when we're playing on Roll20, like I will switch the background image to like here's a forest or a town or a different town. With my other group, the thing I was using for music also let me do background images. So I would have, here's underground, here's the sewer, here's like overview of the city. So I'll play the city music now. So between putting those background images and also changing up the music, it really did a lot of work in setting tone. And I think that does a lot of work in setting the setting, or the feel of the setting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's for me it was it's the people that inhabit the place. I guess I try and, because we usually play IRL and I don't really have like a screen to really show people like the atmosphere of the place, but I can show them like I will take images off of Pinterest of some characters and be like, yeah, this is what this character looks like, right? You know, and because I'm so into big casts of NPCs, I usually try and have a whole bunch of them kind of like on hand, or will, you know, just make like 5 or 6 people that they're going to talk to with all different kind of feels, but because they all are work together or something like that. In case of the Path of Inion, it's like they all work together, right? They're all the heads of their department in the Pathfinder guild, right?
Yeah.
So they all have something. They all have like a piece of information or like an attitude towards the Pathfinder guild, right?
Yeah.
So, or like each other too, right? So it's like, and that kind of helps build the feel and like the history of the place without actually having to do anything. Like Bowman being the kind of mentor, because he's like the veteran of the group, like he's the one that's the guild master, so he's been around and done the stuff, right? He's been a seasoned Pathfinder. Everyone looks up to him, so everyone has a generally good opinion of the guy, right?
Yeah.
Then there's people who are like Naya, and Naya is the researcher, head librarian or researcher, or whatever you want to call the guild, the lore master. But she's really standoffish and never really talks to anybody, but like she's also always really independent and goes off and do anything, but she still really respects Bowman. And like, you know, same thing with like Flick is the basically he runs the general store, like, and it handles all the imports into Inion, right? Essentially just kind of organizes that stuff. He's really about brass tacks. Like he wants to make sure that everything's on schedule. He's the one that counts all the gold coins. He's the one but he's also really personable and knows a lot about a lot of people, but he doesn't talk that much. But he's actually contrasted with what's his name?
The French
Jean-Jacques.
guy?
Yeah, the French guy, Jean-Jacques, who runs the inn. He's very personable and like runs the guild hall and like always talking to people, always. But like they still like each other, but they also are like the half the sides, right? Like Flick's very straightforward, while Jean-Jacques all about the nuances about stuff, right? But they both believe Katani is the strongest, best fighter in the whole entire place. Except Katani actually maybe not Bowman, but like it was really funny when you challenged Katani to like the arm wrestling contest, and Katani's the best arm wrestler in the world.
That was really unexpected. Like I needed my character to do something.
Yeah, right.
It became a whole event that the town turned out to watch. It was
so funny. Yeah, and it was like a simple thing of like who does the headmasters of the guilds bet on? Right, and I went around and I told everybody like how it's like Flick popped his head up from like whatever he was doing, and he said, "It's Katani, right? Yeah, put all my money in her," like without even thinking about it. Like, right, but like Bowman being the good, like he wants to see, he believes in Macy. He puts bets on Macy even though he knows how strong Katani is. He's like, let's see if the kid can do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's all about giving people chances, right? So, and a lot of the people he works underneath him, they've all gotten their chance. Like he's given all of them chances to succeed or like join or be a part of this whole thing. So, and that's how I do world, like that's how I do like my like the world building of the guild. You have no, like everybody has no frame of reference or history of the guild or anything important they've done. It's just the people, and you can just go talk to them. I like that.
So like you mean like in terms of building for this organization?
Yeah.
Like not so much the like place itself, but like the organization that's a significant part of it. Like you would start from the people first, and then use that to define the mood of the setting.
Exactly, but also. Exactly, right. So it's like, it's like also like, not like, oh, it's at high magic, it's at low magic. Oh, are giants in charge, or like are they even elves? It's more like, what's everyone's day-to-day life, right? Like, so like dwarves in my setting, it might not have came across it, but if you talk to different dwarves, like you'll get a gist of it. There's the people who still are part of the Dwarven Empire, and then there's dwarves who decide that no, that's kind of stupid. I'm like my own dwarf, right? Yeah. And it kind of contrasts with like I like Flick, as much as he's a part of the Pathfinders Guild, and as much as part of he's, with the guild and believes in what he's doing, he's also still a part of the Dwarven Empire, and he still pays the tax, right? All dwarves always gives a portion of their earnings to the empire. If you still believe that the empire is worth it, right? Mm-hmm. You still believe in like all of their values that you've learned, that's that kind of stuff. And I always make sure that like every dwarf is always kind of in like whoever believes in the empire still needs to they still think I need to make as much money so I can give a portion of it back to the empire, right? So like Morningstone is another person. Like he's again kind of like Flick, where he's figured out a way to kind of make a business out of something, and is focused on paying a portion of that back to the empire, right? Like Morningstone probably you will never ever know, but I know Morningstone's thinking about that. Right, but then one of the player characters, I think it was Ferox, right? Ferox is a druid. Obviously, doesn't really give a shit about the Dwarven Empire and doesn't really give a shit about being a dwarf. He doesn't hold those values.
Yeah.
Right, and all of his followers, like those follower dudes, like they also don't hold those values, right? So they're less. I would say not less lawful, but like they don't care about the rules as much. Right, which goes to contrast of like what I think dwarves are, right? But I like the idea that there's the dwarves who really remember about the old Dwarven Empire and is like, yeah, man, let's go back to that. And then there's the dwarves who are like, nah, man, screw that, we're gonna go live our own lives, kind of deal. And and like, but that will never come up unless you pay a dwarf, and there's some dwarf talking about paying taxes back to the old empire. Like you'll never need to know that. But I know that, and that's kind of part of world building. There's like a million stuff in world building where it's like you'll never you'll never, they might never ever come up, but I think it's, I don't know, kind of cool to think about.
Like, it's nice to have those details anyway.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. That's just like how I do it.
Yeah, like I can see what you're saying about like using how different NPCs react to what's going on in the world as a way to set the tone and feel of it. Like how, like seeing how connected well, I mean, we haven't really directly interacted with it, but just like if our PCs were to know like how, like what kind of range and connections the Empire had. And like how they would react to it and what kind of mood that would set when we're coming across another dwarf, or if we're in an area close to there.
Yeah.
Like how they might feel about it.
It's like the way that how if a dwarf sees another dwarf, they're like instantly like, yes, we understand each other, right?
Yeah.
There's like, it's like, yeah, a dwarf can be a citizen in one kingdom, but also a citizen of the Dwarven Empire. Like, it's like they never like dwarves who never break their allegiance or their vow will always work. Like you more than likely will always work together, right? Like they'll always try and find a way to help each other, essentially, because dwarves have a really big sense of community, right? It doesn't matter where you are. If you're so loyal to the Dwarven Empire and you could be from halfway around the world and you come to my doorstep seeking my help, they're more than likely going to help you.
Okay. Yeah.
That kind of idea of like, how do I instill a sense of community to an entire race kind of deal, right? Mm-hmm. Or like how elves are really like, so dwarves are into community, elves are kind of isolationalists. You know what I mean? They don't really care about the entire elven population, right? And I'm like, okay, well, how do I put that in? I was like, okay, so Naya always does things by herself. She never ever works with anybody, really, right? I mean, she does when she like kind of has to, but she also just kind of, fucks off and goes over. Like that's why like most of the, like every time you see Naya or anytime you talk to Naya, it's always like she's alone in her study, or like she's alone like doing something else, or she left for like a couple months out of the year because she's like exploring on her own, right?
Yeah. I recall like my character like looking for her at the library at multiple points, and then she was just not there.
She's just not there because she's busy, and she has this thirst for knowledge, and she doesn't have like she doesn't need anybody, right? She's like pretty independent. And they're like, that's like the idea of like maybe elven culture is that like they like, maybe not every elf is like, and also it's not like a thing where it's like all dwarves like to eat rocks or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, but it's like the idea of like a culture. It's like, well, elves should be independent. So it's like maybe the way the elven society is that like the elven population does, in direct contrast to the dwarven kingdom, is like the dwarven kingdoms are like all about community. No matter where you are, your homeland is the dwarven homeland. For elves, it's not the same case, right? Elves have isolated themselves into like their own little city states, right? So it's like everybody from Alinea, they only see themselves as Alinian, not elven. You know what I mean? Like, realistically, I mean, I don't know how much I'll really play that up, but that's kind of the idea I was going for. It's like there's all these little pockets of like elven population, and it's like the elves of Theon or whatever, they are never gonna, they're like, they don't really talk to the elves in Alinea. Like they're just like, they're doing their own thing, and they're all very different compared to like the Dwarven Empire, where like all the dwarves have like a shared culture. Like they've really kind of diverged, and they're just starting to do their own thing, and they might even fight, right? That's the thing. Like they might even like be at odds with each other, even though they're both like trying to do something together. That's kind of the way I think about it.
Okay. So like you would use that then to set like the mood of how elven interactions might work, or how those characters would just generally act.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of, and that was, I didn't think about that at all before, really. I mean, like I kind of had the idea, but now I can see it in work. Like, so the idea of like one of the player characters, Rook, like he is also a super edgy loner dude, to be honest with you. And, if he could do everything himself, he would. That's like the general idea I think of Rook. Like Rook truly believes he's kind of better than everybody else, by like the sheer amount of bodies he puts in the ground, which makes sense. I mean, like,
Yeah, I think
Puts
he's
a lot
in
of
the lead for
bodies in the
kills so
ground.
far.
I'm pretty sure he is. He's put his kill count is like so high right now. But yeah, man, you know, like the two elven characters like Rook and Naya, who most prominent, one's a player, one's an NPC, but they both are pretty loner people. And so far, my whole characterization of elves has been kind of true.
Yeah, I guess that is pretty lucky.
Yeah, except now that your pirate ship is full of mostly elves now.
Yeah, I mean, not that Helen's happy about it at all, but yeah, I guess that's mostly just like a reaction to the events that happened. But
exactly. Well, now I get to explore that and see how that is. Like, I guess like setting to me, it's always been like an evolving thing. There's never like I figure it out. Like at least for me, I never figure everything out. I'm always playing it by ear and seeing how things kind of go and how I feel in the moment about something, and then it's true.
So you're thinking of setting in terms of like the other NPCs in the setting.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I mean, even when we think about running, when we did the win with dice campaign setting with that ring.
Oh, the world building that we were doing.
The world building one, yeah, right. So that one we're world building and campaign setting and doing all the setting stuff at the same time. I mean, for me, it's like I'm going through it and trying to figure out, okay, so like what makes this place special, like what makes the people here special, how they think, like, and then like kind of drilling down, like, okay, so what would make that person think that way, or not what that way, like, but like, you know, what's the general attitude of somebody brand new coming into a place. It's like you like, I've never been to Texas, okay, but I have an idea of what a Texan is, right?
Sure.
You kind of, right? Maybe. You know, from what you've heard of, right? So, you know, that's kind of the way I would like to think about it. I need to get the I always trying to figure out the information of like what that place would kind of feel like. Maybe not what exactly every single person is, because not every single Texan acts like a Texan. That's ridiculous. Yeah. People are crazy varied, right? But you know, you kind of want to figure out like generally how they kind of feel about the place. And I generally kind of, and when I finally go to Texas, right, my eyes will be open a little bit. But all the things I want to know about Texas, I want to still kind of go there and feel like, yeah, I'm in Texas, right? Or like when people think about Canada or something like that, people come to Canada and they're like, I kind of know what Canada's like from what I've heard. Yeah. Let's see what it's actually really like. And then once you're actually there, you can explore it more, right? Okay. So now, right, so with the elves, there's a whole boat full of elves who have done different things in their lives, and now you get to talk to them and see what their experience is really like. Are elves really standoffish assholes? We'll find out. Like,
okay, so you start with that high level like stereotype, and then you can drill down as you get closer to it. You can drill down into, well, what are some actual individuals like?
Exactly, right. Like, who knows? Like, maybe if Alex played Ferox as like a more straightforward like dwarf, all about the rules or all about the whatever the fantasy zeitgeist of dwarves are, then hell yeah, you know, let's roll with that. But because he played him kind of like loosely and kind of just like, you know, this dude who lives in a forest who's kind of greedy and smokes weed all the time kind of deal, like, I was like, okay, now I can like formulate an identity for other dwarves who don't follow the same path that, you know, as the Empire does, right? So I can have an idea of like what I think another dwarf would be like.
Okay. Yeah. I think I like that, like just considering like how your interactions with like a certain group, especially in a fantasy setting where you have these different like ancestries or whatever you want to call them, or races or or like whatever, like how does being a dwarf affect how they interact with the world? How does being an elf affect how they interact with the world, and etc.?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, does a, like, let's say like what's like, because you have all these races and stuff like that, and they're essentially like, so like races are like both, I think, a representation of like anatomical differences like biology and culture, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are just, you know, reflections of exaggerated versions of human culture, right? So what does it mean to be a dwarf blacksmith versus being an elven blacksmith? Maybe a dwarf blacksmith cares about the idea of him being the best blacksmith, or the idea of like, no, I need to be the representation of all dwarf blacksmiths, right? While an elf blacksmith might be like, hey, I need to be the best blacksmith because I am the best blacksmith, right?
Yeah, more individual.
Exactly, right? So and that can speak towards their personalities. So like when you go into a weapons shop and you go see a dwarf might just say, yes, this is handcraft dwarven halfcrafts, and he just keeps saying dwarf and how like, yes, dwarven weapons are the best. Always do, because he's thinking about the general idea of like he wants to so if you go into another dwarf's place, you're gonna have the idea of like, yes, I'm getting a good deal. Mm-hmm. While versus like an elf would be like, no, I am the best, right? And that can really put a different, spin on your NPCs and really color those basically the same kind of. It just gets different flavors onto basically the same kind of transaction. You go in there, you're going to spend your gold on something. It still adds a little bit to it, and I think like I feel like I'm better at injecting that little bit of world building, little pieces at a time, than that whole kind of like overarching idea of of stuff. I just, what do you like putting those big ideas like, I don't know, there's a big wizard war, and after the wizard war there was this lich, and the lich did it. You know what I mean? Like the game that you're playing, like I couldn't think of that. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I wish I could figure that out. I think it's awesome. I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know, like that I can do, like just in terms of like establishing like world history and stuff like that. I don't know if I've really figured out too deeply like how different ancestries, races, again, whatever the term you might prefer, have like affected the world. I mean, sort of in a couple of cases, but not so deeply. Certainly not as much as that. But I don't know. We have different approaches.
It's so weird. Like it, yeah, no, but it just doesn't come out. It's weird. It's like, yes, all that stuff exists, but also it doesn't. It might never ever come out. But it's like it's beneath so many layers of this thing, right? Like I don't know. Like I don't explain it. It's like Jasper being an half elf. What does that even mean? And having an half orc brother. What does that even mean? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I gotta figure that out because they have to talk to the players to know what they're about, so they can talk to them, and it stresses me out. Yeah, man.
No, just figure it out the last minute.
Yeah, just in the moment, just be like, just do it. Yeah, that's what we say. It's hard, but you just do it.
Yeah, I didn't mean that, but yeah. It's hard, but just do it. Yeah, like that is a way just to consider like how your different NPCs affect the tone of the world that the characters are in. I was thinking in terms of like physical descriptions of spaces and stuff like that.
Oh,
that's why I was saying,
yeah.
like, I use like music and imagery to try to set that tone.
Yeah, but I mean that's great. I love it every time you do it because I don't do it. So every time it's weird. As soon as you switch to a picture of like a landscape or like a forest, like we're in the forest, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I need. Like, I personally as a DM never think about doing stuff like that because it seems to be like a lot of work because I put all this other effort into thinking about how dwarves think.
Yeah, like, it is a difference also in how we've been able to run games, because when I started with my other group, we were all we were all sitting on the couch and they were all like in front of this large TV, and I was using that to project. I was using that for the images, as well as for the map, which was like before I was using like this image editing program for the map because I didn't know how to do Roll20. But I did have it on this TV screen, and that's what they were looking at. But oh man, it was a mess because like at the angle I was at, like the tokens I made, they were okay. I got to go back to the beginning. The tokens I made for them were very simple, like 8-bit circles kind of thing. Just because the map I was using, I was making my own maps, but I was using like this pixel art map editor. Mm-hmm. So I made like pixel art tokens for them that were very simple, like single color ones, like there was red or yellow or whatever. But the blue and purple ones were very close to each other, and because of the angle I was sitting at and I was seeing it from the side, I was always getting them mixed up, and it was hard to move the mouse. It was a whole thing. But like it's just a difference of like I was already in a position where I was using a screen, like a TV screen, as part of my DMing. So I would have these images whenever I changed like the program I was using. It would let me switch between different playlists of music, but it would also have an image, like a background image. So I was already doing that basically from the start.
Yeah.
Like I would already have the image there to go, and then I would switch the scene and it's like here's a new image of this scene. From like at least session 2 on, I was doing that. So yeah, I think like that kind of thing is just a matter of how the how the mechanics of how you run a game affects like what the game ends up being. Because like I like just that whole thing of having these background images is just ingrained for me from the start.
Yeah, man, it's just different DMing styles, man. Like
yeah.
you don't have to, yeah, man. You don't ever have to think about doing it at all. You never have to play like any other mats out there or run any games they're running, or just do your own thing. Like, your players are gonna enjoy it. Like, don't ever feel like you're not doing enough, because I mean, I know that I always enjoy it when Calvin switches the pictures and plays the right music, but you know, he probably enjoys when I make my NPCs like a little bit more believable or something, or has like a feel like they're all already friends and you're the new person, right?
Like so, we just do stuff differently, and I think DMing style comes out a lot of like what tools you have available and what people you're playing with, and that's why like there is like the quote unquote Matt Mercer effect, where people compare themselves to like I don't know how people put themselves in that position, like because it's tough, man. People get really swept up into the hype. I guess like if their introduction to tabletop RPGs is something like Critical Role or some other show, Adventure Zone or whatever popular thing there is. I haven't seen Adventure Zone yet, which is pretty embarrassing for me, but like whatever popular thing there is, I guess like
Why is it embarrassing?
What?
I don't understand how people have time to watch D&D when they're trying to run D&D. Like, I don't know, man.
It's because it's a podcast. You just put it on the background.
I guess so. Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, like if that's their introduction to how this is supposed to work, then they think that's how it is all the time. And I don't know, like that just sets people up because they expect to play the same way as like trained actors who do improv as a job. Yeah, but it's different too. Also, Colville touched upon it. I think he has a video. I might link it in the description, or remember to tell Calvin to link it to the description. I don't know, maybe. Of Colville, one of his running in the game episodes is about role playing and how, again, the Matt Mercer thing, he brings it up. But it's like, you know, because you're streaming a game for other people's entertainment, like the players have to act up their character, right? You know, they're trained actors, so obviously it comes easier to them. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, you know, not like there's a difference between, in my opinion, where someone's trying to play up a character and just making the catchphrases and doing the cat, you know, the slang and or doing the funny voices. And then then he said like there's role playing, which is like the next level, where it's like, well, now you're making decisions based on your character's fake history or their fake wants or their fake desires, right? Like that real stuff where you're like, okay, I'm not playing myself, I'm playing somebody else, and that person has the whole wide range of stuff to think about, and I'm gonna have to make a really tough decision. And what would this character actually do? And that's probably where I kind of drill down from with my NPCs a little bit. I mean, not all the NPCs are created equal, but some of the main ones I'm like, what does this person care about? Like, you know, why are they doing the thing that they're doing? Mm-hmm. You know, what's important to them? And yeah,
So on this topic of setting and world building, just
as we try to wrap back around to that.
yeah, man.
But no, I mean, like, I don't think anybody should compare their DMing styles like too harshly. Like, if you see something you want to borrow from someone you play with or someone you're watching online, go do that. Like, I've definitely borrowed the how do you want to do this thing from Matt Mercer. I'm sure everybody has. Like, I don't.
What's that?
Oh, wow. Okay. It's weird to not
because I don't watch Critical Role.
Yeah, it's just,
I don't watch
really
anything
weird.
to do with Geek and Sundry or any of those guys. I'm just
They're not even with Geek and Sundry anymore. They
man. Like,
they haven't been for years.
Okay,
but like, how do you want to do this is a very common phrase. It is the thing, like, whoever gets the last amount of damage on a creature, Matt then asks them, how do you want to do this? And then they get to describe, like, how they end the creature.
Oh, okay.
And I sort of borrowed that for my describe your final blow moment. Because nice. what I see it set up is it sets up this tension after a long battle, or you're near the end, the other thing is near the end. I try to focus it on, like, whatever is the last thing alive or whatever is the boss creature. And I put the player in a position of, one, they can have further interaction with the story. They can do more to say, like, instead of just saying they swing their sword, they do their damage, they can say, well, I swing my weapon, it strikes a creature from the neck down, tearing right through them or whatever. It gives them an opportunity to interact with the world and describe things like that, as well as setting up this tension of, like, is this it? Is he going to say the thing? Is this the moment? Did we do it? And then it's like, yeah, we did it. And then there's this moment of cheer, and then the player gets to feel like a hero as they describe how they end this monster or whatever they're fighting.
Yeah, and I like it too because it's a lot of times it's like the final, it's like the big, like the boss character of the encounter or something like that, because they're usually going to stick around to the end, right? And it's been kind of like a hectic thing, and then it's like when we fought that episode I was gonna say that episode when Keely died. It's like that session when Keely died. How you asked, like, oh, Dolorfic, how hard do you want to how do you describe defeating this foe? Because it was like he just killed Keely, like he was just in his jaws, and it's like and then there's like this crazy blood bath that Tim describes. It's just destroying this giant wolf in this crazy, like, really metal fashion. And it's like, yeah, if I were describing it, I would never describe it that way, like, you know what I mean? But like, or maybe you might not even describe it that way, but like, it's kind of cool because then it kind of what you believe as like your character too, right? Because like Dolorfic is like this like little kind of angry, doesn't really angry, brutal fighter, right? Like, he's just gonna get in there and do the dirty work, like, right? I'm gonna ask you a question, kind of deal. Sure. And, right. At least that's how I feel. I don't know how Tim feels about it, but it kind of comes across that way. Versus like maybe you're playing like I don't know, like a very, very skillful fencer or something like that. You can say like the final strike has such position that you feinted their way, so like they lean a certain way, and then you strike them through their heart or something like that. That can be like very different.
Yeah, like
way.
it
But
creates
you guys both.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no. I mean, it just creates this opportunity for the player to not only like describe the moment, but also like how their character would do this thing they're seeking out to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like it lets them be more in character. We are coming up on an hour and a half. I want to pull out before we get to 90 minutes, and we're at like 83.
Yeah, sure, no worries. We can probably address setting a little bit better the next
Maybe.
episode.
I don't know. I didn't expect you to take it from the angle of like using NPCs and how like setting in terms of the people in the setting. I thought like I was thinking specifically along the lines of like, what adjectives do you use? But that was a.
It's a spooky scare setting.
But yeah, like you did bring up a good point of how much the people you interact with can affect the tone of the setting, especially because like again, I have these audio and visual things that I use to do that, but using more of a like theater of the mind kind of thing, how people act and what they do, it provides like a very heavy impact on the tone of the game. because it is like it's more the basis of how we see the world in our minds.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I didn't expect you to go that way, but I'm glad you did, because I didn't think of that at all.
I don't know. Let's just hope it translates properly to the games. The way I think I'm doing it, the way I'm actually doing it, are probably two different things.
Well, I mean, now I know what to ask dwarves about when we start playing again.
Yeah, which side are you on?
But yeah, that's our episode for now. If you liked it, just tap that like button and maybe subscribe if you want to hear more. And as always, like I mentioned this up top just because I want people to know it. But yeah, just message us or drop a comment. Check us out on Twitter or Facebook. Or I do have a contact form on our site now, winwithdice.ca, where you can just drop any sort of like episode suggestions or like what you want to hear from us.
Yeah.
We're open to talk about like a lot of things, but we can only come up with so many things. But like I'm sure there are people out there who have more specific questions in regards to how to run a game, or what should they do first, what should they prepare, and things like that. And as much as we can ramble about like what we do, I think it'd be pretty effective to be able to say, like, answer someone who wants to know like a specific thing. So if you want to ask us that, Twitter and Facebook at winwithdice, our website winwithdice.ca, you can contact us there. That goes right to our email, so yeah, we would see it. Anything else? No, I think that's it. And if you do subscribe, make sure you ring that bell so you get a notification when we upload any new episodes. We do have some often awesome stuff coming in the pipeline that hopefully you'll get to see soon.
Yeah.
Ramon, do you have anything else to say before we head off?
No, man. You just remember, it's hard, and you just gotta do it.
Yeah, that is the number one big tip. It's hard, but do it.
It's hard, but do it.
Okay, folks. Remember, as hard as it is, to keep on winning with dice.
See you guys.
Bye.